Hello and welcome back to Piano Shack with me, Woody. Today I've got something rather unusual, something a little bit different for you. This might not look much, but this is actually a unique custom shop stereo speaker cabinet. And today I'm going to try it out for the very first time. I have no idea if this actually works or not. So what on earth is this crazy contraption, you might be wondering? I'll tell you all about it in just a second, but I've had this myself in my possession for a couple of years, probably 3 years. I bought it a while ago and have never actually used it. It's just been in storage until today. So the history of this interesting cab then, it was built to special order by a music shop in Sweden 10 or 20 years ago, probably more towards the 20 years ago mark actually, and it was ordered by one of these V accordion players. You know, these digital accordions? I think that's what it was. Maybe it was just a normal accordion, I'm not sure, but he needed stereo and he needed a stereo cabinet, and at the time nothing really was available. These days I know we're all using active powered PA loudspeakers. But back then there was no such thing 20 years ago, or perhaps if there was, it was very expensive. The guy that ordered this had something very specific in mind. He wanted something that was compact and stereo, that he could connect to his stereo power amplifiers, something like this, and use it with his V accordion. So from what I understand from the previous owner of this, the music shop did design and build it with some carpenters and some audio engineers. It was an expensive cabinet. I believe the cost would have been about 1,000 US when it was made. And in fact, there may have even been 2 or even 3 of these. I don't know how many are remaining. Probably, my guess is this is the only one. So this is truly a unique thing in Sweden and all around the world. And don't worry, I think we'll open it up later if you're curious what it looks like inside, as in fact I am. If you want to see it around the back, there's not a lot to look at, but we do have just a pair of speak-on connectors here for the cables to the amplifier. Yeah, just to prove that it really is stereo. And it's an interesting way that I think they've got the 2 speakers of this wired up, or the positioning and how they've wired them up. Now, the reason I was particularly interested in this is because I play a lot of organ on the Nord Electro here, and it's a never-ending quest for us keyboard players to find an amplification solution that's compact and in stereo, so we can really hear the sounds of the Leslie simulation on Hammond organ clones like this, because a keyboard like the Electro has stereo outputs, and to hear the sound, the simulation of the Leslie rotary speaker spinning around, you need something like this. A stereo speaker cabinet or a pair of stereo speakers. And it's quite hard to find a compact solution for that, for gigging and home use. This thing maybe fits the bill. The other thing that was attractive to me is that this has a pair of vintage 12-inch speakers, 12-inch woofers, no tweeters, just a pair of like guitar speaker cones, I suppose. So there's very little high end, but I think that would be ideal for instruments like the Hammond and the Rhodes, because back in the day, they didn't have very high fidelity speaker systems either. In fact, the Rhodes and the Hammond organ don't even put out a lot of high end frequencies. And if you do have like a modern amplification system, it can end up sounding a little bit harsh and shrilly. Some of you can relate to this, I know. A bit harsh and shrilly in the top end registers. So this, with just a pair of 12-inch woofers that don't really produce any high end, I think will sound pretty warm, mellow and fat. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. In fact, some of the nicest sounding amplification systems for the Electro over there have been vintage Fender guitar cabs. Albeit they're in mono and they've got lovely tube circuitry, but just the sound of the Rhodes and the organ coming through on those vintage speaker cones. Yeah, sounds really nice. Okay, enough talking. You want to hear this thing, and so do I. What we'll do, we'll hook it up to the Electro here, and I will try and capture the sound of it for you on my Zoom handy recorder here, it's not gonna do a great job of capturing what I'm hearing in the room. Probably a bit of a waste of time, but I know you'll be annoyed if I didn't do it. So let's rig it up, and I'll play something for you and give you my first impressions of this thing. Hopefully it actually works, but as I said, I have no idea. I love the way these speak-on connectors go in. It feels really satisfying, and these are really solid wires, as they need to be, because they're passing quite a lot of current between the amp and this passive speaker. Okay, let's try this one channel at a time. I've just got a Rhodes sound. Let's try the left. Great. Let's try the right. Both channels working, and it sounds really clean. Let's put them both up to about halfway here. I can put some distortion here on the electrode to fatten it up even more. Levels are okay. Yeah, it works! I'm not totally surprised, because the chap I bought this from did assure me that it worked, and he seemed quite trustworthy. But you never know after storing something for a few years. Awesome! Yes! Difficult to get a good angle for you guys here. I would like to try the sound of the rotary organ simulation. That's really the most important thing here. So Leslie switched off. It's got a beautiful warm sound, I have to say. Put out some drawbars. And engage the rotary. Okay, so that actually sounded great. Really pleased with that. It was super warm, punchy, no shrillness or screechiness in the top end whatsoever as I pulled out all the drawbars on the Hammond there. Sounded really nice, yeah, as I would expect actually from a pair of big 12-inch woofers. Let's open it up and see exactly what's going on inside. I wasn't hearing the amazing stereo spread that perhaps I was expecting. You could hear it was stereo, but it wasn't really throwing the sound of the Leslie simulation around the room. So I'm going to open it up and have a peek around inside. I'll share that with you as well. The other thing is I'm selling this on. I don't need to keep this. I'd rather it go to a new owner that actually uses it, takes advantage and enjoys it. And I just want to check out inside that everything is fine before we sell it. After a lot of unscrewing, there's about 20 screws on the back of this thing. We got it open, The back was a tight fit as well, but I eventually got it open. And we can see inside a couple of woofers. These seem to be vintage RCFs. I'm not an expert on these matters, but sometimes these vintage guitar cab cones can be quite valuable in themselves. So if anybody knows about these particular ones, do let me know in the comments, because I don't know much about these guitar cabinet things. The cabinet is constructed very nicely with solid, thick plywood. No heavy or soft MDF here. It's all looking pretty nice. Don't be too concerned about the yellow tape on the wires. It's not actually holding them together. They are crimped and soldered exactly as they should be. I was expecting to see a crossover here, even though we don't have tweeters. Perhaps they would put a crossover in to limit the frequencies going to the woofers, but that's not the case. Each speak-on terminal on the cabinet is wired directly to its respective speaker. You can also see the interesting layout here inside with the cones angled at 90 degrees to each other. This is a pretty conventional way, I think, of wiring up a pair of speakers in the most compact way inside a cabinet. I do believe Motion Sound did something like this as well. But there's nothing strange going on inside here. Everything is wired up correctly, which is good news. Yes, good news indeed for myself and the new owner of this, whoever that may be. I guess what we're dealing with here is that from a small cabinet with no separation of space between the two speakers, you're not going to get a super wide stereo spread. The other thing is that you typically hear stereo on the high frequencies as well. And remember, this thing is not pushing out any high frequencies. So you're just hearing the slightly woolly sounding woofers, but they do sound amazing. But yeah, not as much stereo here as you might have expected. Having said that, it still sounds a heck of a lot better than connecting it up in mono to a single loudspeaker. That really doesn't work for Leslie rotary simulations. As mentioned earlier then, this speaker is for sale. I only bought it for the purposes of making this video and a certain amount of curiosity. You will need to come and pick it up in the south of Sweden. It's hard to know what something like this is worth, but I'll advertise it for $100 and see which offers I get. Even, in fact, the amplifier here on the top, I haven't found myself using very much, so we're having a bit of a clean out. This I will also sell for about $100. It's mint and has only been used for like a couple of hours at most. Oh well, apart from this little ding here anyway. If you watched my original review of this and a pair of PA loudspeakers, you'll know why. Who remembers that video? Let me know in the comments. So I guess we can call that a huge success. I'm really happy that I didn't get ripped off when I bought this, sight unseen, or hearing unseen, I suppose you can say. Great news. I look forward to moving this on to a new owner who will appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. Do let me know in the comments and I'll see you next time. Cheerio. Cheesy laugh. I don't know where that came from. See ya.